So now that we've got our data visualized, let's clean up the data that we already have. So first, we're going to start with our vegetation layer. And right now, oh, I guess we need to add that. So once again, come into our catalog. And we are going to add this NLCD 2011 polygon. Oh boy, that's a lot of data. And it all looks the same.
Use the Bear Lake one, Josh. Just
use the Bear Lake? Okay.
Yeah, use the Bear Lake one.
Okay. Good call. So just kidding. We're going to use this Bear Lake NLCD poly.
Little.
Little. You'll see it's just this little guy. So if we want to practice zooming into that without scrolling, we can, in our table of contents here on the left, right-click on that Bear Lake NLCD poly and click Zoom to Layer. And it will zoom us in on that data. Now, if we open up this attribute table by right-clicking in the contents and clicking on Attribute Table, we will see that there are these grid codes that are just numbers. We don't know what those numbers are. Well, we do know what those numbers are, and actually, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to paste a link in the chat for you with a table, a link to a table that gives you what all of these are. But we want to choose which ones are trees, which ones are shrubs, and what is bare land. So first, we're going to create a new field with which to do that. So in our attribute table, up here in the upper left, we're going to add a field. And we're going to call it vegetation. And we're going to make it text. And then we're going to save our edits. So vegetation, text, and up at the top, we will click Save to create that field. Now we can close our fields. Oh, yeah. Yep, that is definitely the case, Roberta. The Rocky Mountain National Park's lake layer has errors in it. That's why we also have this water bodies. But yes, you are correct. It is incorrect, and we will take a look at that as part of what we're doing today.
Josh, could you go over again how you added a field?
Sure. Okay, so when we right-click in Bear Lake NLCD poly in the table of contents and open the attribute table, from this table, in the upper right corner of the table, there is an add field.
For some reason, mine is grayed out and it won't let me click on it.
Hover over
Same.
it. Hover over it, and does it say you have pending edits?
It says this command is currently disabled. Oh yeah, unsaved edits, you're right.
Okay, that's
it's read only.
So that's usually what will happen with that. So up in your edit tab here on the top, to open up your editing ribbon, you'll have a choice to either save or discard edits.
Those are both also grayed out.
Really?
Same for me.
Interesting. So you don't have, okay.
Where are the data layers coming from? Can you
Oh, did
check
you,
the data source?
so,
Sorry, what'd you say?
so to check the data source, right click in your Bear Lake in the contents and go to properties. And then from that properties window, click source. And that second row should tell you where it's coming from. Is that from the N drive, but not from classes workspace?
It's in the classes spring 2020
Right.
NR 493.
Okay, so you are trying to add, so you need to copy the data into that classes workspace.
Okay.
So if it's the case that you are looking at the data when it's in that NR 493 folder, it will be read only because you this group does not have write privileges to that folder. So if you want to edit data, any of this data, you have to bring it into a folder that you do have write privileges to instead of read.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So if anyone else has that occurring, I will give you a couple minutes now to copy that data over and re-add it to your map.
That worked for me. I just dragged it into my folder.
Perfect. Yep. And then for those of you that needed to copy data, do you need me to go over how to add the field again?
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. So when you've got your attribute table open, again, in the top left of that table, it'll say field, and you can select add, delete, calculate. You will click add, and it will bring up a new table that has all of the fields that it currently contains, plus this new field that you are creating. I am not going to add that field again. So we are adding a field called vegetation, and the data type will be text. So once you have added that field, so that vegetation text, then at the top, you can click save. And then you can close this window. Is anyone still stuck on that part? Or not yet finished with that? Okay. So now, if you still have your attribute table open for Bear Lake NLCD Poly, you will see that it has a vegetation field. This is great. Now we'll practice selecting just certain features from here. So up in your map tab, up at the top here, in this ribbon in the middle where it says selection, you can choose to select by clicking. We're not going to do that. I'll clear my selection, or select by attributes or location. We are going to select by attributes. Now, you should have that link to the table that I sent you of what these codes mean, these grid codes. So right now, we want to select things from Bear Lake. We want a new selection, and we're going to create an expression here. So these are SQL expressions. This is just how we ask the software to select certain things. So right now, we want to select things that are forest. So our table tells us that forest is 41, 42, and 43. So we want to select things where our grid code contains or includes the values 41 and 42. So to get that, again, grid code, so we click where, there's a drop down in the left. This is where we select the attribute we want to select by, and we want to select by grid code. The middle drop down, we want to select includes the values, here right towards the middle. This will let us select more than one value. If we only wanted one value, we could say is equal to, but because we want 2 or 3 values, we select includes the values. And then in this rightmost drop down, we can actually select the values. And it doesn't look like we have a 43, we have 41 and 42. So when our clause box looks like this, we can run the tool. And you'll see that it's selected here on the bottom of our attribute table, 71 of 307. And this shows all of our records, but here on the bottom left, but if we select this box, show selected records, it makes it so we can only see those records that are selected. We're gonna leave it as showing all the records. So we've got our 71 forest polygons selected. We want to change that so the vegetation equals forest. So to do that, again, in our attribute table, along the top where it says field, add, delete, or calculate, we are going to calculate field. And that brings up the calculate field window on the right here. Our input table is that Bear Lake NLCD poly. The field name that we want to calculate is that vegetation field that we just created. So we'll click the drop down and select vegetation. Now, this the expression type is whatever you're most comfortable with. You can leave it as it is. We're not doing anything very complicated. It says here, vegetation equals. So in quotes, we are going to write forest, and it should show up red. So if you look at my window, it says vegetation equals, and then in quotes in the box, forest. When your window looks like that, you can click run. And magically, well, if we go back to showing selected, everything that is selected now says forest. Great. Are we feeling okay with that one? Is anyone having problems or have a question? Great. And you're going to get some more practice doing this because we're going to do this with 2 more things, or 3 more things. So now that we have our forests calculated, we're going to do the same thing with herbaceous land. So we're going to clear our selection. So up here in our map ribbon at the top of our screen, in the selection box, we are going to click clear, and that will get rid of our selection. And now you can see on the bottom, it says 0 of 307 selected. So once again, we're going to come back up and select by attributes from the map ribbon. Bear Lake and LCD Poly. New selection. We're going to click a new expression. And much like last time, we're going to say grid code includes the values. And this time we want 71. Because the 70s, so 71 through 74 is grassland or herbaceous land. So when your window looks like this, you'll once again click run. Now I've got 111. Our next step is to find the fields, add, delete. We're going to calculate. Again, Bear Lake NLCD Poly, field name, vegetation. And now we want our vegetation to equal, in quotes, grassland. Once again, when your window looks like this, we will click run. So now we've got grassland and forest. Still with me? I will take that silence as a yes. All right, and we just want to do one more. Yeah, one more. So again, we will clear our selection and then select by attributes one more time. Bear Lake NLCD Poly. New selection. Vegetation contains the values or includes the values. Oh, not vegetation. My apologies. Grid code includes the values. We want 90. We'll click run. And then one more time in field, we will calculate the field name vegetation. We want our vegetation to equal, in quotes, wetland. And one more time, we'll click run. Great. Now we've identified grasslands, forests, and wetlands. You'll see that we still have some null values or items that do not have anything in vegetation, and that's okay. These are some shrubs, and 31 is barren land, which we're ignoring for right now. Okay, so when we've got that, we can close our attribute table. Now we're going to get into some advanced symbology. So up until this point, when you wanted to change the symbol of something, you would just click that symbol and change it here. But now we're going to click this layer, or right-click this layer and select Symbology. So in your contents pane on the left, you're going to right-click Bear Lake NLCD Poly and select Symbology. And on the right now, in the Symbology pane, you will see, hopefully, something that looks like this. And right now, the Symbology is based on a single symbol. From that drop-down menu, you are going to change that from single symbol to unique values. And you'll get a new window that looks like this. Now, field 1 here, this is the field or the attribute that you will symbolize by. We are going to symbolize by vegetation. And you can now see in your map that when you select vegetation as the unique field to symbolize by, things look different. Now, we want to make these look like what they are. So take a few minutes and select just like you did here, just like you did before with each individual symbol. You can click Forest here on the right in the table of contents, or my apologies, the left in the table of contents, and on the right, the Symbology pane will come up and you can change that to your liking. So we'll make the forest look like forest. A nice dark green. I don't want there to be a stroke, but I do want it to be see-through. My grasslands will be a different green, maybe a little bit more yellow. Ooh. And my wetlands will be a bit of a bluer green. Ooh, I don't like that. And I do not want my null value to show up at all. I want it to be invisible. All right, how are we doing with that? So now we've got green forest, lighter green grasslands, and let's make that a bit darker. And this kind of turquoise color, swampy wetlands. Great. Is anyone stuck on that changing the symbology based on attributes. Excellent, because we're going to have a little bit more practice with it. We're going to do the same thing now with our Nhd Water Bodies. So once again, if you right-click on Nhd Water Bodies and select Symbology, it'll bring up this symbol tab, or the symbol pane. You can select Unique Values to bring up the attributes. And we want F code. So that field 1 drop-down menu, you will select F code. And once again, I will copy into the chat a link that has a table containing what the F codes mean. Wow. That's a lot of F codes. Now you'll see here, well, maybe we don't want F codes because F codes are very specific. If we do F type, you'll see there are far fewer. That's a 3-digit code as opposed to a 6-digit code. And it just chops off the last 2 letters or last 2 numbers of the F code to give us the family. We can see here that 378, according to our table, is an ice mass. And we can see in our symbology pane, we've got values, which we can't change. If you click on this, you cannot change it. But then we have another column called labels. Labels you can change. So if you click on this 378, you can change that to ice mass. Just like the same way 390 is a lake or pond, but we'll just say lake. 436 is a reservoir. And 466 is a swamp or marsh. Swamp, marsh. And you can see now that you've changed that label here. Over on the left in your table of contents, this now has labels. And again, like we did with the vegetation layer, I'll give you a few minutes to symbolize these in a way that is pleasing to you.
How did you get your topo map and topo features to come through?
Aha. So I just selected, so for now, I selected my Bear Lake in my contents. And then up in the appearance, I just made the transparency about 50%. And you'll notice I also turned off my world topographic map base layer because that also has color that I didn't want. Now we're going to do something really fun. For our lakes, instead of having a solid fill, so if you click lake here, it brings up the lake symbology. It'll be in layers. And instead of just having a solid fill for our lakes, we're going to pick a gradient fill. And that gives us a cool little fill like this. And we're going to go from dark blue to light blue. And we'll hit apply. And you'll see then that our lakes now have a gradient. I'm going to do the same thing with my reservoirs. We'll just make that a little make them look a little bit different.
Hey, Josh, for Swamp
Yep.
Marsh, do you want to find one of those from the gallery? I think there's a
Ooh,
gallery.
yes. So on our left here, if we click Swamp Marsh, it comes up with properties on the right in our Symbology tab. We can also pick a pre-made symbol from our gallery. So we will search for swamp. No. We can search for wetland. No.
It's in there. I know. I used it, so it's in there.
Marsh. Maybe I'll. Oh boy.
If you just scroll down, it's
Yeah.
called Swamp.
Green Park Recreation. I don't know if I have it loaded on my computer.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh. Oh wait.
No, those are the
Nope.
three. That's really weird.
Dang. I don't have much on my computer. I usually remote in.
Well, this could be a good opportunity just to mention that there are different style sets for different
Yes.
industries and purposes. And apparently I have one installed that Josh doesn't. There's different ones, like I'm looking at mangrove, open water, snowfield, swamp, sand. So they have all these different ones. There's ones that is specifically for environmental things. There's like an oil and gas one, utilities. There's all these different ones. So you can get all these styles and actually have standard symbology for your features without having to go and create it and make it yourself.
You know, I thought I had that.
I would just give it up. Just move
Yeah,
on.
it's not there. It's not there. Okay. So now we've got water bodies and vegetation symbolized how we want it.